Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by my co-host, Jacob Billington. We also got William Espy report right from the rink, which is
Yep,
great. Right from the SAP Center. How's it going, William?
it's going pretty good. Is this a first for you guys?
First one with boots on the ground, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we got
Yeah, the
William.
Sharks are playing. Yeah, the Sharks are playing tonight, so.
Yeah, against somebody they might be trading a goalie to. So
Oh, yeah, that's a precursor to what we're going to be talking about. So that's great.
yeah,
So yeah, well, I mean, let's just jump right in to a couple things in our news and rumors roundup. And we're gonna let's just start with that with the Avs goaltending. I mean, we've talked about the last what I want to say every episode that we've done of this show. And I mean, their goaltending hasn't been good. Alex Georgiev has been bad. His stats look horrible right now. And Justus Annunen hasn't really provided much support there. Kaapo Kähkönen has joined the team now. Not sure when he's going to play, but there is some targets out there that he could maybe go after. One is Mackenzie Blackwood in San Jose, and you also got John Gibson in Anaheim. So I'll start with you, William. What do you think about these rumors that are kind of going around with them targeting Blackwood? Start there since you covered the Sharks. What do you think about those rumors there?
I mean, realistically, Blackwood is a lot better than his numbers show. I remember look at his performance against the same Avalanche last year. I want to say his debut with the Sharks, 51 saves, if I remember correctly, on 52 shots. When he's going, he's going. And having a defense like Colorado's in front of him, I think he could be phenomenal for them if that's the route they want him to go.
I mean, yeah, I mean Blackwood actually played pretty well last season, even though the Sharks were bad. I mean, whenever I watched him, it's like he's actually doing pretty well for a team that's not very good in front of him. So I mean, he could be a pretty good guy to be in front. I mean, the Avalanche haven't been that good defensively either, which doesn't really help out their goaltenders. Jacob, what do you think about these rumors around the Avalanche with Blackwood, Gibson? Do you see a move coming in the future here?
I could see John Gibson making sense. As of right now, John Gibson just needs to play hockey. He had an emergency appendectomy, I believe it was, right before the season started. So obviously throws a wrench in all those plans. And the Ducks have been very, very clear that they're trying to find a new home for John Gibson. And he is, I mean, historically, he's a fantastic goaltender. Really struggled over the last few years, but you tend to see that with a lot of players that you hear a lot of trade rumors about. And being on a horrible Ducks team has not been helpful to him. I think that Colorado targeting him would make a lot of sense. And I mean, it's a high cap hit, but it's only for 2 more years. I wonder if Anaheim would be willing to eat salary. And they don't really have a ton of trade chips on their roster. They're kind of thin as it is. They have a couple prospects like Oscar Olausen. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head, but they have a couple of the prospects that are available, and it could make a lot of sense to see John Gibson go to Colorado.
I mean, Gibson has been in the trade rumors. I want to say the last like 2, 3 seasons, and nothing's ever happened. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Duck. I mean, I guess how the Ducks do throughout the season too. I mean, Dostal is the goaltender of the future. Seems well, he's the goaltender of the present right now. I mean, they don't really have any other options. They did pick up David Riddick, who I mean, James Reimer, not Riddick, James Reimer, off waivers. I always mix those two up. It's just the R's that kind of mixes me. Yeah, he's been really. I mean, he's bounced around. He was in Detroit last season, part of that 3 goaltender or 4 goaltender kind of rotation they seem to have. So I mean, they do have him, but I mean, I think Gibson could be on the move. Like I say, it depends on how well they do throughout the season, if they do move him at all. All right, let's move to another team, which has kind of been in the news a bit. Craig Conroy has said that he's not sure why everyone's talking about them selling this season. He says that he likes the quiet around the team. He doesn't want any noise. But then there's been reports that they're not going to be exclusively buyers, that they could still move guys even if they are doing well. William, what do you think about the Flames right now? I mean, they're off to that 4-0-1 start, which is really good, very early. But do you see them buying or maybe becoming a seller like expected?
I think right now it's best to just stay as is, see what you can kind of how sustainable this is. I mean, you have Jonathan Huberdeau playing like Jonathan Huberdeau for the first time since he joined the Flames. You have things just are going right, which is
Yeah.
usually the case for them. And so to me, it doesn't make sense to do anything right now because why mess with something that's working, especially if you don't know why it's working.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the case here. Like, not much has really changed around that team. Like, there's been some minor changes, but overall, it's the same core group of guys. And so, why mess with it? Just if things are finally going into place, wait and see. If you get into the new year and they're still rolling like this, then adding a second line center makes perfect sense. And then just kind of seeing where you can go. But when you're already at a point where there are doubts on if you can win at the score, don't mortgage your future by buying a bunch of things that aren't going to actually help you.
Agreed. I mean, 4-0-1, like I say, is a great start, but it's not like, is it sustainable? Is it something that's going to be able to be going? It could just be a good start. I mean, look at how the Arizona Coyotes started last season. Well, what happened? They didn't make the playoffs. I mean, anything can happen during the season. We're not sure if it's sustainable. I do agree. I think that's something that they just shouldn't be playing around with right now. Jacob, what do you think about the Flames? I mean, Cronroy I mean, he's saying the right things. I mean, you don't want to blow up the team, especially when you've done a lot already in the offseason. And it kind of creates some stability. I get why he's saying that, even if he does have in the back of his mind, yes, I'm going to be doing more selling.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the team: Jonathan Huberdeau, Rasmus Anderson, Connor Zary, Martin Pospisil, and Andrei Kuzmenko are all playing at over a point per game right now, or a point per game or better, I should say. I don't see any of them finishing that way this season. I don't. I think they're all going to cool off. I think right now you keep what you have, kind of like William was mentioning, and then by December, January, if the team is still showing, like, you got to let these players earn the right to have the GM add to this team. Right, it's going to be a reward to these guys. So I don't think you need to sell any of your assets. Somebody like Mackenzie Weegar, if a good trade offer comes in on him, I would think about that, or Rasmus Anderson. But other than that, like, I think they're fine with what they have. They're going to get stuck in the murky middle if they keep what they have. So they need to let the players kind of dictate whether they're going to buy or sell. And just, yeah, I mean, and shout out to Justin Kirkland too, who after 10 years after being drafted, he finally gets his first
Yeah.
NHL goal. Fantastic story. So just wanted to give a shout out to that one too. But yeah, they're going to get stuck in the murky middle if they stay as is, which is the worst place to be. Kind of bad by accident. So yeah, you gotta choose one direction, and right now it's the players that have to dictate what direction that's going to be.
I agree. I think, there are guys that you can move. I mean, Kuzmenko's a UFA. I mean, Anderson's been in the trade rumors as well. I mean, it all, like I say, I agree with you. I think it all depends on how they play and how they look as the trade deadline gets closer and all that. Um, if they are close to the playoffs, then of course, don't do anything. Don't blow it up. And also, I say don't add too much either, because they are in that area where you're not really sure, are they rebuilding or are they retooling? Right now it seems like they may be retooling the way they're looking, but again, is it sustainable? Is it something that can go on? And we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Well, what's best for the team is to just blow it up. That's what they have to do.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Like, they're 5 years from now, they're going to regret not blowing it up.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point too. So we'll see. That's what the bad part of being in the murky middle is. You're not sure what you're gonna do with it. All right, let's move to our takeaways from the last bunch of games. There's a few milestones that happened as we're recording yesterday, and that's 1,000 games to Tyler Myers. Great. I mean, this guy's been in the league for a long time, 16th season, and you don't realize that he's been in the league for that long. And 1,000 games now, and had a point against the Flyers. A great assist, behind the back type of assist to Besser. I love that. And I mean, he's had some criticism when he's been in Vancouver here with how bad he was defensively. Took a lot of penalties, types of things. But I want to say since Tocchet took over, he's been a very reliable defenseman, and I don't get the criticism. If anyone's criticizing him now, I don't understand it because he's been a very stable defenseman for the Canucks since Tocchet took over a season and a bit ago. So, Jacob, what do you think about that milestone for Myers? I mean, you've covered the Jets in the past. He played there for a while. What do you think about Myers?
I think Myers is great, and obviously looking at the Senators roster, Matthew, you and I talked about this just over Slack messages. I was really hoping that Myers would go to UFA because he's
Yeah.
exactly what Ottawa needed at that point. And so he's one of the defensemen that every team needs one or two of. Yeah, in the past, like I think he kind of has a reputation of being a bad defenseman now, which is fair based on his play over the last 6 years combined. But like the last, like you mentioned, year and about a season and a half at this point under Tocchet. He's been a totally different defenseman, and he's playing fantastic. And you look at the changes that Tocchet made to a ton of individual players like Brock Besser, JT Miller, Quinn Hughes, even, and how well Philip Hronek has done. People talk about those guys, but nobody talks about how improved Tyler Myers is. And he's always been an okay guy, but no, it's been the last couple seasons that he started to really shine in Vancouver.
And he's very durable, of course. You have to be durable to hit 1,000 games. He's played most seasons, and I don't know. He's one of my favorite defensemen. I really like that they re-signed him, even though the opinion was mixed in Vancouver. But I'm really happy that he's still here and was able to, do that 1,000 games in a Canucks uniform. So I love it.
He signed a
Um,
3 year, $3 million,
three
right?
years, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
and
hate that at all.
it's not bad. And the thing is, I think this first contract, everyone was like, it's too much money for what he was doing. And I kind of agree at that point when he was, because that was a lot of money for what he was doing. But now that 3 million is a bargain, in my opinion, for what he does. I mean, he's a top four defenseman, plays on the penalty kill, and sometimes on the power play, not a lot. But yeah, I love Myers. I'd say one of my favorites on the Canucks right now. All right. Well, let's move to our quick review of the Metro Division. William, I'll start with you. Any teams that you're kind of particularly maybe surprised by in the Metro so far this season? I mean, a few of the teams have kind of started where we kind of thought. But anything you want to kind of talk about from any of the Metro?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the thing I'm a little bit surprised by is the Flyers start. I kind of expected them to be a little bit better than they
Mm,
have been. Obviously, I don't expect them to be up there with the Devils or the Rangers, but I didn't expect them to see them that far down. And of course, the big one right now is Carolina. They're not really where they should be in terms
mm.
of their history, but still plenty of time to turn that around. There's a lot of games in the NHL season, so nothing I'd really be worried about now, but it's just plenty of time. Those teams everything will work itself out.
Yeah, I mean, this is very early. Whenever we're speculating about stuff, it's like stuff can change. Like Canucks started 0-2, and now I mean, now they look great. I mean, 2-1-2. It just takes a few games, and all of a sudden you're looking great again. So it is tough to kind of judge teams at this point of the season, but we always do. Jacob, what do you think about the Metro so far? The teams, anything that you want to kind of point out, or surprises, disappointments, anything?
I think the biggest surprise is that everything's going as expected. Um, usually things are very sporadic at the start of this year, or at the start of every year. Not in the Metro. I mean,
Yeah,
like the only surprise, I just have the division stats up here, is that Carolina is in sixth in the division. They've played 4 games and they're 2-2. Like
yeah.
they're one win away from being tied for third, which is and yeah. So the Devils dominating. Everybody kind of expected that. The Rangers second there. Understandable. The Capitals are the top of that kind of the mid range,
Mhm.
which everybody kind of thought. And then the Islanders or Penguins are neck and neck. Blue Jackets and Flyers at the bottom. So the biggest surprise is that everything is unsurprising.
They kind of expected everything to go the way it is, and
Yeah.
seems to have. Yeah, for sure. Jake, do you have any standout players from the division that's kind of surprised you as being top performers so far, or is that the same thing? They've kind of just gone the way everyone expected.
I'm gonna go with Artemi Panarin, and everybody expected him to be a superstar because that's what he is. But he's got 12 points in 5 games.
Yes, pretty
That's
good.
insane. Yeah, so hard to really say I'm surprised by it. Alexi Lafreniere is off to a great start on the Rangers too, and Adam Fox, Vincent Trocheck, like all the guys on the Rangers are firing on all cylinders. We talked about Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby a lot last week. I would mention them here too, but don't need to beat a dead horse on kind of just how good they are.
For sure. William, you have anyone that you're kind of, I mean, it could be a standout. It could be someone that you expected to start well and hasn't. What do you think with some of the players in the Metro?
So now that I'm back on the Blue Jackets team, there are a couple players who have stood out to me. And overall, I know obviously they're near the bottom of the division as a team, but they played very well under Dean Evason. I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Mm.
But the fact that a player who surprised people around the NHL before, Yegor Chinnikov, over a point per game, I mean, alongside Kirill Marchenko, and the other member of that line, as they've dubbed him, Sean Monahanov. They're doing great. I mean, that line has played really well, and I would say I wasn't really expecting that. Like, if you told me before the season that Chinnikov was going to be over a point per game, even this early in the season, I don't think I would have believed it. I see him more as like a half a point per game player, but obviously it's still time for things to average out. But if he keeps going at this pace, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, we talked about Chinnikov. I think it was last episode or a couple episodes ago. I know his name came up, and yeah, he's been really good. And I know Mark really he pinpointed him in the preview show, and he's right bang on that. So yeah, great for Chinnikov to start. All right, let's get to our quick fire, and there's a few hot topics on our quick fire round here. I'll start with you, Jacob, on the first one. I mean, again, very early on in the race here, but who's your top three for Calder Trophy? I know Macklin Celebrini, unfortunately, has been injured, so he does look great when you look at his stat line. But who's your top three at this point?
I'm just looking here to make sure. Yeah, okay. I was just seeing if Chinnikov was eligible, but he's not.
No.
He's played a lot more than I thought he did. This is so hard. I'm gonna go. I gotta have Michkov in there. He's been great. I gotta have Celebrini in there as well. Everybody that listens to this knows I hate Lane Hudson with a passion, but I gotta give it to him. He's just been impressive. No, I don't hate him. I obviously he's a fantastic talent. So yeah, I'll give it to those three. It's a very, very boring list, but I'll give it to the three front runners.
For sure. I mean, Celebrini, I mean, I think if he was healthy, he'd be getting to put more points up. So that's unfortunate he's hurt. William, what about you? Who's your top three at this point?
So I would say two of those are the same, Michkov and Celebrini.
Mm.
I mean, as a Sharks writer, I got to go with Celebrini. Yeah. But I'm surprised you didn't mention this guy, Seamus Cason.
Yeah.
He has been insane for the Devils, and he's a player I've always really liked. But I didn't expect him to come this right out of the gate like this. He's off to a hot start, and on a Devils team that's obviously dominating at this point, he could do some big things this year.
Yeah, Casey's been very impressive to start the season, and he was a guy that was, not expected to make the roster at all. And the injuries just kind of helped him out, and he's just taken advantage of the opportunity, which is great. So my three I'm going to be boring. I was going to pick the same as Jacob's one, but I will throw Logan Stankoven. I'll make it different. I'll go Logan Stankoven instead of Hudson. But I go Celebrini and Michkov for sure, and Stankoven in there. I mean, everyone's saying, the thing is he's very close to being not eligible. I mean, very close, but he is still eligible, so he's in there.
There is one other name in there. I just want to pull it up and make sure I'm right on this first. Yeah, Maxim Siplikov. He's been playing pretty well too. He's got 3 points in 5 games with the Islanders. And he's been doing pretty well. He's been a pretty impressive player for them.
Yeah, he's not as old as when Kuzmenko got into the league there.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the next one here. Jacob, what do you think for non-playoff teams that have gotten off to a hot start? You have the Flames at 4-0-1, the Wild 3-0-1, and Utah at 4-1-1. Which one is more sustainable in your opinion of those three teams?
I've been vocal about it. It's Utah. They're going for the
Yeah.
cup. Utah's going for the cup this year. They're going to ride that magic. I'm going to put in my order for a jersey in the next couple weeks. I'm hopping on the bandwagon.
All right, you got Utah there. William, what about you? Those three teams, which one's the most sustainable in your opinion?
I'm going to agree with them, but I got to be different here. I mean, I guess I'll just go with Minnesota then. It's a little less guaranteed because it seems like right now it is kind of the Kaprizov show. But I mean, that's what they've always been, and it's kind of worked out for them in the recent years. So hopefully it's sustainable for them.
I mean, yeah, I mean the Wild. I mean they've made the playoffs a bunch of years. Last year was the first time in a long time that they didn't. They just kept missing and not getting out of the first round, which was frustrating, I'm sure. But yeah, I think the Wild could sustain. I think Utah could as well. I'm not sold on the Flames. I think they're going to drop off at some point. But yeah, I think Wild or Utah for sure. Yeah, for sure. There. So, next one. This is on head coaches. Again, very early on, but there's, of course, talk about these guys being on the hot seat. Jacob, who is already there, or at least warming up. They are kind of worried that, oh, maybe there could be gone or change happening.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Nashville 0-5 with Andrew Burnett. I think he's fine. You look at Colorado 1-4 with Jared Bednar. I think he's fine. The one team, and again, Chris Knobloch with Edmonton. I think he's fine as well. Derek Lalonde with the Detroit Red Wings.
Mm,
I think. I mean, if it was up to me, I think Yzerman should go first. That's not going to happen. It's going to be Derek Lalonde going. And so yeah, the Red Wings have just been terrible. I don't like the roster construction. I don't like their utilization. I don't like the way they set their lineup. How much of that falls on Yzerman? How much of
mm,
that falls on Lalonde? I think more of it falls on Yzerman and the Yzer plan.
yeah.
But it's gonna Lalonde is gonna be the one to take the bullet for it, and I think it's gonna happen sooner rather than later.
All right. Yeah, there is. I mean, we talked about last season on Grindline a lot about how long is the leash on Lalonde this season. It depends. I think 20 games is going to be the thing. I always say 20 games. I think that's always that good marker of how the team's going to do. I think definitely if they're still struggling at that point, I think he's definitely on the hot seat of a change happening, but we'll see.
I would say the end of November. I don't know how many games
Yeah.
that'll add up to, but I'd say the end of November.
Yeah, Thanksgiving I think is probably your good benchmark. Of course, that's a benchmark for a lot of teams
Yeah.
for playoffs, right? So we'll see. William, what about you? Who's on the hot seat, or at least a warm seat?
That's the obvious one is Lalonde. I mean, I think it's kind of one of those things where if Eisenman doesn't do something, he's next on chopping block. So he's going to try to get at least one more coach out of it to get something different. I mean, other than that, like Jacob said, there's nobody who really stands out of like this might be a guy who's on the ropes. I mean, I guess you could argue maybe Tortorella, but I mean, realistically, he got the team to overperform last season. I think they're
Yeah.
returning to where they're supposed to be. So I don't think you can really blame him for anything. I mean, the only other guy, I guess, if by the new year things haven't straightened out in Nashville, Brunette could be a name that comes up, but I think that's very unlikely. I think once all the players get used to one another, they're going to light up.
Yeah, agreed. I think Lalonde's probably the most obvious answer at this point. All the other guys, I think their teams are going to start kind of turning stuff around. They've already started a lot of those teams. I mean, there was talk about, I mean, I don't think it was very legit, but I read one thing about the Canucks being something. I mean, they're not going to fire Talkett. I mean, come on. They're not going to change coaches again so soon. I mean, they did that already. I think that's done. But yeah, and Knobloch, same thing. I don't think that's a good idea to be changing coaches so soon again when you already did it last season. I mean, it's not good. It's not a good look on the team. So I think I mean, Mike Sullivan's another one in Pittsburgh. That could have been someone too. But yeah, I think Lalonde's probably the more one that's maybe a bit on the hot seat already so soon in the season. All right, next one. I start with you, William. Which free agent at this point of the season, very soon, very early, but who has the best value? Who's provided the best value for their contract at this point?
Well, I know who it hasn't been. Will be Steven Stamkos right now. Hey, he'll get there though. Honestly, I actually have to look back at this one. Let's go Jacob go real quick, and then I'll get back
That
to
sounds good. Jacob, what about you?
There's a lot of them. I don't know. There's so many to pick from. I think Kiefer Sherwood has been
Mhm.
fantastic with the Canucks. The Canucks? Yeah, the Canucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been unreal. I don't know if you saw the stat. He's on pace for like
Yeah.
475 hits
Yeah.
this season.
He's leading with
Um,
32 right now.
yeah, in what, 5 games? Like
Yeah.
that's insane. I will give a shout out to Noah Gregor and Michael Amadio in Ottawa. Both have been fantastic additions to the
Mm.
lineup. Amadio, Ottawa's best game of the year so far was with Amadio on the first line. He's not going to put up the points as a superstar, but man, does he ever complement that line well. I saw somebody, it might have been Sean Simpson, but somebody put it online that the way he plays reminds him of Mark Stone, and I agree.
Mm.
He's not going to put up the Mark Stone points, but he just has that style that really, really complements any line incredibly well. So Michael Amadio has been an extremely underrated asset for Ottawa.
Yeah, I really liked that signing when it happened because I was a fan of him in Vegas, and I think he's the guy that definitely is very versatile. He can go up and down your lineup and be effective. So yeah, very very good start for him. William, you got someone now, or
Let's go to the goalies on this one. I mean, Anthony Stolarz has basically saved the Maple Leafs
yeah,
this season. Hard to ignore him. And then even up in Vancouver, the late signing of Kevin Lankinen,
yeah,
that's been a pretty good one too. So I would say, yeah, just gotta respect those goalies.
yeah. Well, I was going to mention Lankinen because he had a shutout, his first shutout in the last game against Philly, and then the other two games he only allowed 2 goals in each game. So
Yeah.
uh, his stats look like Vezina Trophy stats right now, but that's not sustainable. But he's been. I mean, I don't know where the Canucks would be. I mean, no offense to Shelovs at all, but he has not started the season very well, and I don't know how the Canucks would be if he was starting every game because Lankin has just provided that calmness that Demko usually provides, and I've been really impressed by him. And the one thing I'll say though, he should stop going outside of his net because I mean he's been okay, but I think it's maybe communication with his defenseman at this point. But he really likes playing the puck, and sometimes he just doesn't make the right decision of putting it up the boards and gives it away a few times that I've seen. But I think that may be just kind of growing pains too in a new team. So I'll reserve judgment on it, but I don't like it. So, but he's been amazing. I've been really impressed by him so far this season. So kudos to Alvin for grabbing him up and for Lankinen for not wanting too much money to come
Yeah.
in. So yeah, I'm really impressed.
Turning into Vancouver Steve Dangle over here.
For sure. All right. One up, one down to finish our show here. Jacob, give us a one up, one down for the last week and a bit here.
My one up is the Winnipeg Jets. So as we're sitting here right now, they just defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the greatest thing happened when they were chanting "Where is Rucker?" Over and over again, and then it turned into Jaeger's better. So I mean, huge one up to them. They deserve that after all the pain that they've gone through, not just this summer, but with all of the people that left because Winnipeg as a city sucks. I don't personally believe that, but that's the reason that a lot of people left, don't want
Yeah.
to be there. But it's also obviously that's not Rucker McGroarty's issue with them. So yeah, Winnipeg is my one up. They deserve some love today.
Yeah.
My one down, I had a really hard time with this. Because I was gonna go with just the goaltenders.
Mm.
It seems like there has not been very many goaltending performances that have been huge standouts. Like I feel like over half the league has under 900 save percentage right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, just those bottom end goaltenders. Specifically like Georgiev, UC Saros has been
Yeah.
not good this year. So those high end guys that are really struggling. So
All right. Well, it's a good one. I mean, goaltending has been something we've talked about quite a bit, and there's not a lot of really great guys that have started. Hellebuck, of course, started off
yes.
pretty well. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that haven't for sure. All right, William, what about you? A one up, one down.
I think I'm going to go with the Kraken. game winning streak. Pacific, I wasn't expecting to be that high up there already.
Yeah.
In the season, so got to give them some respect for that. I would say the one down. I'm sure you guys have touched on this one in the past already. But it's got to be the Predators. I mean,
Yeah.
they have too much talent to not have
I mean, 0-5 to start the season, and with all the big additions that they made. I mean, Stamkos, you mentioned already, has not been very good to start the season with his new team. And then Marchessault, I haven't really noticed him at all either. I mean, those two guys, they need to be good. I mean, at least good. I mean, if not great, for what they're getting paid too. And I think they'll come around, but yeah, it's not a very good start for the Predators, who had a really good season last year too. So we'll see if they can turn it around, and better start soon. 0-5 is not a very good start.
And I do just want to add, so I just looked it up. There are 55 goaltenders that have played a game so far this season. How many of them have under 900? I want you to both to guess. Under a 900.
Under 900.
Or how many have over?
I'm gonna say not even half.
What about you,
Would
William?
be what?
I would say like 17.
17 have under a 900.
I'd like to over.
Oh, so 17 have over a 500. Only 23 goalies have over a
Oh.
900 save percentage. So that means 32 goaltenders have played this year and have under a 900 save percentage. That's insane.
It definitely feels like we're going in a direction where that might be the new normal. Where 900 is kind of that goal where you want to be. Which is going to be very strange.
Yeah. We're back to the 80s here.
These guys all just suck.
All the 80s, the Vezina Trophy winners were like,
80s.
some of them had, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, people like the high scoring, I guess.
Yeah. Makes it fun.
Goalies and coaches definitely don't. All right. Well, thanks, William, for coming on from the rink as you get ready to cover the Sharks tonight against the Avs. So, yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll hope to see you again. And Jacob, of course, coming on as well. We'll be back in a few days here for another episode, but thanks for joining us. Make sure you're checking out everything at thehockeywriters.com for all the coverage of all the teams and anything on the Substack and the rest of the YouTube channel as well. But until our next episode, we'll see you next time.